Super Magbot is a platformer with no jump button, only using magnetism to propel or repel your robot toward the end of each stage. And you know what? It's the best platformer I've played this year. Hey guys, it's Cody with Indie Game Pulse. If you want to find the newest and best indie games and hear genuine reviews from an indie game fanatic like yourself, click subscribe and the notification bell to make sure you don't miss another video. Let's get into it. Thank you to the folks at Team 17 for sending a review code my way. Before I go on and on about how good the platforming and gameplay is, let's talk for a second about the story, which is thinner than my mom's chicken noodle soup. Once upon a starry night, a giant star called Magnesia equalized its magnetic balances and showered down bits of magnetic power on the surrounding planets. By the way, did you notice the word magnet in the name of the star? That's going to become a trend here. These magnetic raindrops changed the landscapes forever, but some also fell to each planet's core, imbuing them with great power. And with great power comes a great villain. With his gigantic thirst for power, Magsteroid set his sights on consuming the Magnesia star and absorbing all of its power, so the citizens of Magtech send Super Magbot out to the far planetary reaches to secure all the planetary fragments, and thus stop Magsteroid. Basically, the way this plays out is every time you visit a new planet, of which there are 4, Magterra, Magzero, Magma, and Magtech, you platform your way through and save whatever local citizens are in trouble. Again, the story is pretty thin, in my opinion, and the naming of the planets and characters is elementary. But most likely, you're not playing a precision platformer for the story, so let's get to the gameplay because this is where Super Magbot really shines. The game eases you into the difficult platforming by teaching you one move at a time and making sure you can repeat it without prompts as well before allowing you to reach the end of any stage, and the tutorial is great in that it's optional. There are little signposts that you can read if you need to, or you can try and blaze ahead on your own intuition. Since Super Magbot cannot jump, he is made of metal after all, he uses red and blue magnets to repel himself away from or propel himself toward the colored magnets found in each platform. And this mechanic is really twin-stick platforming. For instance, standing on a red magnet and pointing down with the right stick on a controller and hitting the right bumper which controls your red magnet, your character will be propelled upward. Conversely, if a red magnet is above you and you point your right stick toward it and hit the left bumper for your blue magnet, Super Magbot will also be lifted off the ground. The beginning levels of the game really just focus on these two mechanics, making sure that you can clear gaps and your typical spinning saw blades, but as you explore more planets, you'll encounter some true challenges. Not only is this a twin-stick platformer where you don't have a jump button, but each time you leave the ground, you only have 2 charges with each magnet to use, meaning until you land again, you only have a maximum of 4 moves to make. This really brings out some challenging puzzle platforming too, requiring you to account for which charges you've already used. Thankfully, the game does the counting for you in the upper right and left corners of your screen, and the charges will be refreshed whenever your robot lands. Within each level after the tutorial ends, you also have the chance to collect 2 star fragments before reaching the end point. These are not mandatory to completing the planets, but they are necessary if you want to open up the Magnesia star to play. A few other notes on the overall gameplay: once you complete every level in a world, you will have a boss fight, which start out very easy to the point where I wondered if I would breeze through the rest of the game. And then they get significantly harder with each world, requiring precise jumps in succession over a longer period of time than a normal level. The fights are wicked in my opinion and pretty challenging, taking me between 20 to 30 minutes and a lot of repetition and failing on the last jump or 2 several times due to nerves. Lastly, once you complete every level and defeat each boss, Magsteroid will plow through and break the planet into pieces on his way to Magnesia, giving you 9 new broken levels, which are basically your dark or hardcore levels, presenting even more of a challenge. These can be maddening at times, but I'm currently on the 4th world and have fully completed all worlds and broken worlds before it, again in about 4 to 5 hours. There are speedrunning times for each planet that you can go back and try for, and even timers for each individual level if you're into that kind of thing. The timer is always on screen when you're in a level, which is helpful. As you get into the later worlds and levels, flat platforms are not the only tools that Super Magbot can use to charge his way through the levels, but also bubbles, Thunderclouds, springboards, and much more are used to add variety and keep things fresh. There is a lot to learn in Super Magbot, such as the challenging controls that defy convention by using the bumpers and twin-stick controls, often pointing down instead of up. Every time I felt like I had mastered the current moves and playstyle, the developers threw another tool or platforming mechanic into the mix, and I always felt challenged. The art style is bright and vibrant and fully pixel art. From the characters to the landscapes, it's all pixelated goodness, and I quite enjoyed the different color palettes between the worlds, common as they might be. It's nice how your magnetic beam is always present on the screen, so you're aware of where it's pointing, and when you are within range and able to use a platform, it also becomes highlighted. There's also a neat kind of shadow trail that Super Magbot leaves behind when you use your magnets, like when you turn the mouse trail on for your cursor. The soundtrack is also a nice mix of symphonic chiptune with some really nice melodies I noticed especially early on, not unlike those in old-school Final Fantasy games. The boss fights bring another mix of more high-octane beats to heighten your senses and adrenaline a bit. So the question is, should you play Super Magbot? Well, I said in my opening that I think this is the best platforming game of 2021 so far, and I think the unique platforming style is what really stands out the most. There are so many precision platformers that all use the same mechanics and just mix up the art style, music, and story a bit, but Super Magbot goes the polar opposite direction and really exercises your brain to think not about how high and far you can jump and dash, but how you can propel and pull yourself off the ground in creative ways. The controls are simple, but difficult to grasp since most actions are reversed, but it's a good, fair challenge that will leave you satisfied at the end of each level. Let me know in the comments what you think of Super Magbot, or what your favorite platformer has been so far this year. Thank you very much to my 1,080 subscribers for your support. If you like what you see here at Indie Game Pulse, consider helping us grow by supporting us on Patreon. For more top indie game countdowns and reviews, check out the videos on your screen now, and I'll see you on the other side.